Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to No Late Fees, the show where we champion physical media. That's why we call it No Late Fees. I mean, what's worse than you having a streaming service and then you like save a few films that you might want to watch later and come back and they're no longer streaming? It super sucks when you buy them and the streamer loses their license to stream it. You basically just threw money away. So we champion having your own physical media. Not only do you get better picture quality, better sound quality, but you also get the extras behind the scenes that show you how they make these pictures come to life. It's also a good educational tool. So we're always going to champion that. I also do this show because me as a filmmaker, I like to share the stories that inspire me to tell stories. So this is my little love letter to the films that inspired me throughout the years. Enjoy. All right, so our first film today is Asphalt Jungle. Asphalt Jungle is a film noir that came out in 1950, directed by John Huston. John Huston was a hell of a director in the early film noir days. I think he's credited to making the first film noir, which was The Maltese Falcon, which is here somewhere. John was also a pretty cool actor. He was in one of my favorite films of all time, and that's Chinatown. And he gave a wonderful, wonderful performance. This film also stars Sterling Hayden, who was in our last episode as a star of Stanley Kubrick's The Killing. What made Asphalt Jungle really cool back in the day, it's one of the first films to tell the story from the criminal's perspective. Usually they'd have it split down the middle, where they showed the cops' lives and the criminals' lives, but this film dove heavily into the lives of the criminals. And that was after a John Huston rewrite. I think the original script had it split 50-50 like they normally did, but John saw some interest in telling it from that perspective, and it super duper worked. And this technique was used a few years later for an Italian film called Rififi, which is super good. Now again, it is one of those films that has subtitles. Rififi, not Asphalt Jungle. Rififi has subtitles, but again, the story's so good that you'll get lost in it, and I'll review that film pretty soon as well. Another cool thing about Asphalt Jungle, I believe it's Marilyn Monroe's screen debut. I think it's either her debut or it's one of her early works for sure. She was dope. I don't know what the misconception was about her being a weak actress, but she really held her own in this film, especially with the star power that was connected to the picture. She had a small role, but she makes her mark, and you can see why she became who she was. There are certain people who have that thing when they come on screen that you can't take your eyes off of them. And she's one of them. John Huston had a great quote about Marilyn when he said, "She's the only person who can make an entrance by exiting the room." And that's pretty cool. So a lot of people don't have that it factor. I've been in this town for a long time, and I've only been around it a few times. Most notably, I'm cool with the actor Lakeith Stanfield, and I knew him very, very early on, right when he was doing Selma. He was very early in his career. Even then, he had something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you just know it when you see it. And we were all right. We knew he would be okay, and he's a big star today. This film also stars Jane Whitmore, who you probably know from The Shawshank Redemption. He's the one who played Brooks in the movie. Brooks was the older character who left jail, and he couldn't transition back into society. So he's known for that. But this is a really early performance from him, and he was great in this film too. So yeah, I recommend this. It's considered a classic for a reason, so I think you'll have fun when you check it out. And our next film is a classic for me. It was the first R-rated film that I went to. I was 13 years old. I seen like a lot of advertisements for it back in the day on BET. I think I was watching Rap City or something, and it was a film that for some reason I knew I would connect with. So I asked my dad if he can take me. I think I was ready to watch that film, looking back. So this film, Boyz in the Hood, 1991. John Singleton really changed my life. I had the opportunity to meet John a couple of times, and I told him straight up how much his journey meant to me. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for his courage and creativity. So it felt really good to tell somebody who I looked up to how much they meant to me and how much I appreciated their journey and their creativity. But this movie here, man, I think I really took to it because it was a story that followed some kids when they were 12, 13 to about the time they were 17, 18. And so I was around the same age of these kids when this film came out. And that was the first time I seen kids my age on screen that were going through what I was somewhat going through as far as being an adolescent and trying to figure out who I am as a young man and trying to find ways to fit into the neighborhood and all that stuff. So that was the first time I saw that. And as time went on and my group of friends, we all grew up and kind of grew apart in our own ways. I related to that part as well too. You know, growing up in junior high and seeing how these kids' lives turn out in the movie, you just don't think that you and your friends would ever go through that kind of stuff. You feel like in that moment that you guys would be ride or die into the end, and 3 or 4 years later, here we are. So it was really lightweight giving us a prophecy to how life could go. Let me tell you about Boyz n the Hood and my history with this film. Being physical media, I had a dub of the VHS. I used to watch it every day in the summer of '92 to the point where I memorized literally the whole film. I could quote lines. You can throw a line at me, I fire the next one back at you. I just really love this film. And I've owned it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K. Like, I'm always going to get the upgrade of this film whenever it comes out. There's 2 films I do that for, Boyz n the Hood and Heat. And I have, I have 3 Heats right here. I mean, John Singleton went on to be nominated for an Oscar. I think he was the youngest director to be nominated for an Oscar, and it's well deserved. I'm not sure what won that year, but I'm sure there's a case to be made that this should have won. I don't know. I had to look it up. I should have looked it up. I mean, that's me doing my job. But I be freestyling this, y'all. So just roll with me. This film is well acted from top to bottom, from Cuba Gooding Jr. to Lawrence Fishburne, Nia Long, Morris Chestnut, and it introduced the world to Ice Cube as an actor. Nobody knew what he's going to do going into that film, but I think Cube killed it. I think this is probably his best performance to this date on film. You got to give props to John for discovering Nia Long, Morris Chestnut, Cuba Gooding Jr. They are household names now, and it's because of this film. And I forgot, Angela Bassett is in this film as well. So this was a major, important film. It spawned a whole genre of modern day hood films, some that were not done so good, but this is the blueprint for this type of picture. John was a visionary, man. We give a lot of props to him. I recommend this film, and I want to say again, thank you, John. Appreciate it. So I had a little technical difficulty. My GoPro 11 shut down. It's a Hero 11, and it got overheated and it's kept shutting down. So if the look changes, that's why. If anybody has any ideas of why that camera tends to shut down after about 20 minutes of use, let me know. I don't think it's overheated. I don't know what's going on. Might be a defect. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. Put it in the comments. I would really appreciate that. This next picture is one of my favorites, personal favorite. It's independent film, came out in 2013, and it's directed by Barry Jenkins, and it is Medicine for Melancholy. What inspires me about this story, first of all, it's Barry's first picture. He shot it for $13,000. That should inspire any filmmaker to push and claw and find ways to get your picture made. I'm doing it right now. So it stars Wyatt Cenac and Tracy Higgins. They were 2 young actors at this point in their career, and they carried the film, did a great job doing that. Wyatt Cenac, you probably know him. He was a correspondent on The Daily Show for a while. What's really cool about this film, and I love when films do this, they make the city they shot in a character in the film. And in this film, San Francisco is a major character in this film. Frisco in 2013 is way different than Frisco now in 2025. So I'm sure Barry's really happy that he caught that version of Frisco on film. Another thing that you can take away from this film is how Barry got this film done for $13,000. He worked with all his friends that he went to film school with. And that's something they tell you on film school. The only people that you can rely on are the people that you're taking your film classes with. Now, it didn't really happen in my case because I had a very, very small film class, but the people I met early on in my career are the same people that I work with now. It's true. Whoever you start your journey out with is more than likely who you're gonna ride on and finish it out with. And I think that's super dope. When I first saw this film, I tweeted that I really, really love this film. I was so happy I was sharing it because what's cool about it, it was a film that I could relate to. It was a film that had characters that were my peers who were going through the same thing I was going through, walk like me, talk like me, and were just embracing adulthood the way I was. And it was super cool to see that. And that's what connected me with this film. That's what connected me again with Boyz n the Hood. Representation does matter, and it mattered for me. When I saw it, I was super excited. I tweeted that I saw it, and Barry saw it, and he followed me, and I followed him back, and we followed each other on Instagram and all that stuff. And what's funny is years later, hanging out with a friend, and we were hanging out with a musician who was pretty famous, and they were telling us, letting us hear the new album. It sounded dope, and they had a concept for how they wanted to do the videos for the album. They wanted to do a whole thing like Beyonce did with Lemonade. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know who would be really cool to do this? I said, Barry Jenkins. I told him, you should find a way to get in contact with Barry. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I can do it. So I sent him a DM and I told him the deal. I was with so-and-so. They're looking to do this and that with the music video concept. I think it'd be dope to do it. He hits me back. He's like, this is awesome, but I can't do it because I'm in the middle of post-production for my latest picture. And that picture turned out to be Moonlight. So I'm pitching him about music videos and he's doing the edit for a film that wins Best Picture. That's it. That's how it goes. But I say that to say it's like in that moment, I knew he was the best person for that gig. And I had no problem putting him on if I could. He didn't need me to put him on. He was already doing a movie. But I knew he was the best person for the job. I could have easily pitched myself, but I believed in Barry just off seeing this. So that's just how it is. You can't control destiny. If it was meant for me, it had been for me. If it had meant for them, it had been for them. The artist never did the video concept, so it was meant for nobody. So what are you gonna do? If you can find a DVD, I think the DVD's out of print, so it might cost as much as the Criterion. So you might as well get the Criterion if you're gonna do it. You ain't got to get the Blu-ray. You can get the Criterion DVD, you know? But yeah, Medicine for Melancholy, highly recommended. You'll dig it. All right, so our next film is one of my personal favorites. This film put me on Tony Scott. This film put me on Quentin Tarantino. This film helped me fall in love with crime stories. And this is True Romance. Like I said, directed by Tony Scott, 1993. First of all, it's written by Tarantino. So after I saw Pope and went back and discovered Reservoir Dogs, somehow I landed on this. I think it might have been a friend's recommendation. I don't know. So after I pop it in and I'm watching it and I'm seeing this cast, it's got Patricia Arquette, Christian Slater, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Brad Pitt, Gary Oldman, Sam Jackson, James Gandolfini, Christopher Walken, Chris Penn, Michael Beach. This thing is loaded with star power. That's one thing you can take away watching a Tony Scott film or watching this film is that there's no small parts. Everybody is important. If you hire the right person, they will bring something to the character that you didn't even think about. That's what makes your film rich. That makes your storytelling even more doper. So I appreciate Tony for that. Tony was one of my favorite directors. I used to be a courier for Tony and Ridley Scott at Scott Free Productions and RSA. And everybody knew I was a big Tony fan. So one day I was surprised with this gift. This is an official crew jacket from the movie True Romance. How cool is that? It's one of my most prized possessions. I don't wear it often. Well, when I do, I usually wear it to a meeting, and it helps, give me a little extra confidence, or it kind of reassures my love for filmmaking, because sometimes these meetings just don't go as you plan. And you have to find ways to keep yourself in love with this business because it will not love you back. But yeah, it's a crime story. It's about two kids who find a bunch of cocaine and have no idea where to sell it at. So they drive to L.A. and try to make a play out there. But like I said, it was written by Tarantino. This Blu-ray has a really dope commentary by Tony Scott and a separate commentary by Quentin Tarantino. So it was really cool to hear both of their visions for the film. Quentin's vision when he wrote it and Tony's vision when he directed it. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but they had two different endings. There was a Tarantino ending and a Tony Scott ending. And the Tony Scott ending is what ended up in the picture. True Romance is a film that borrowed heavy from an early Terrence Malick film called Badlands. It's not the exact same story, but it's of the same ilk. And what you can really hear, it's the same score. Hans Zimmer took the score from Badlands and sort of reworked it, kind of sampled it, kind of remixed it. So if you go listen to the score from Badlands, you'll hear the same similar score in True Romance. It's a dope picture. It's not hard to find. You can probably find this Blu-ray on Amazon for like $9, $10. And I think if you're a Tarantino fan, Tony Scott fan, or just want to see a great picture with great acting, you should probably add this to the collection. I'm glad I have it in mind. It's inspired me for years, and it will continue to inspire me. Yeah, true romance. Check it out. And for our fifth film today, it's one of my favorites. These are all my favorites. You're gonna get tired of hearing me saying it, but they all have been inspiring me. I love watching them. I love rewatching them. I love watching the commentaries. I love learning from them. I love being inspired by them. And I'm inspired by Hell or High Water. It came out in 2016, I believe, directed by David Mackenzie, but it was written by Taylor Sheridan. This is before he had the whole Yellowstone world that he created on television. Around 2012 or 13, he had 3 movies come out in a row that were amazing that he wrote. He wrote Sicario, he wrote Wind River, and he wrote Hell or High Water. And it's kind of a loose trilogy. You can go ahead and do research on that. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there that will explain that theory. This film is so dope. It's a modern day Western about 2 brothers who are robbing banks. Doesn't get any more American than that. And when you see how they shot this, especially the getaway scenes, they shot the cars like they were horses. And it was you can see clear as day what the vision was, and they nailed it. The performances, Chris Pine, Ben Foster, Jeff Bridges. Chris Pine, I think this might be my favorite Chris Pine performance. It's very understated, very stoic, very all-American. He killed it. Ben Foster, I mean, come on. He's known for playing these slithery, slick, kind of nasty kind of characters, but like he really did it well in this film. And you believe their chemistry as brothers. And then Jeff Bridges, I mean, who doesn't like Jeff Bridges? He's the one that kind of holds this film together. He's just an old school Hollywood cat at this point. And when you hire him, you know what you're getting. You're getting a very solid performance from a very seasoned actor who's going to make choices that are going to work with your picture, and they definitely did. Like I said, it's a story about 2 brothers robbing banks, and they did a really great job because you are rooting for them to get away. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what can I say about this film? It's damn near flawless, in my opinion, and I can watch this any day of the week. Hell or High Water, I'm sure it's streaming somewhere, but I highly just recommend checking it out on the physical because you can get the better picture and a better sound quality, and that's what you want to experience when you're watching a moving picture. All right, guys, so that'll do it for me. Another episode of No Late Fees. Thank you so much for watching. If you dig it, like and subscribe, share it with your buddies. Let me know what 5 films that are your favorite. What are you watching right now? And what do you think about the ones I picked so far? This is episode 2, and we're gonna keep doing this, like I said, weekly until I run out of steam, or hopefully until I get a directing gig. And then even then, I'll come back and do it again. So that's it. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time, peace.